Welcome to the Rewire Yourself podcast. I'm here with my new friend, André Phillipe. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. André is an incredible entrepreneur. He's a marketing and branding expert. He's got a holding company that he's got businesses rolled up into. So I'm super excited to dive in today and just immerse my brain in learning.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'm a Dallas guy. I was actually born in Austin, but came to Dallas as a baby. Been here my whole life outside of going and playing soccer in Virginia for a year. So I've been here my entire life. I have always been an entrepreneur, although it took me until like my early 20s, mid 20s to accept that.
Right.
But yeah, so now, now that I don't play soccer anymore, business is like my sport.
Got it.
And I'm just in it to win it. And married, 2 beautiful kids. We live and prosper. And I'm thankful to be on this side of the dirt and living life.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
Well, so can you kind of give us a glimpse of, when did you, how did you become this marketing and branding expert?
Well, I always say let other people call you the expert. I certainly don't. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, although I've cut my teeth in it quite a bit, seen some success. But, so I guess the story of my journey starts with me going to college and playing soccer. I was an athlete student. I wasn't a student athlete. I fully intended on playing a year or two and then going into the league. The only decision I felt like I had to make was whether it was going to be here or overseas.
So you were either going to go into the MLS or go overseas?
Yeah, that was the plan. I'd started practicing with a few teams prior to graduating high school, so it was just kind of written in scripture, and that's all I did is played soccer my whole life, and I loved it. So I go to Virginia to Radford to play soccer out there. And while I'm there, my folks get a divorce. So it really changed my priorities. I came home right away. And whenever I got back in town, I went to a small business school in Cedar Hill, and I was the captain of the soccer team. We're rolling into 3-a-days. There was a situation in my family where after being together for 25 years, my father had said that he would take care of my mother until she remarried. But the day of the divorce, he pretty much just cut her off. So it was up to us at that point to fend for my mom, because we lived in a pretty traditional household in that my dad worked and my mom only worked if she wanted to. Otherwise, she raised the kids. She did a great job doing it. So my first foray into business was I was literally watching TV one night, and I knew I couldn't get a standard job because I had to be at the soccer fields at 6 or 6:30 in the next morning. And, we were in 3-a-days at the time, and I had school. And at this time, my world had really gotten rocked, because now I don't know if I'm going to go play soccer for the rest of my life. So, and soccer was really my identity. Right. So I was really in this insecure time where if I'm not going to go play soccer, then what am I going to do? Because I'm not wired to finish school and climb a corporate ladder. I know this at this age.
Right.
So I was watching TV one night, and I saw a commercial for a janitorial service.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I could do that. Like while everybody else is asleep, I could run a janitorial business and still be at 3-a-days and whatnot. So I literally woke up the next day. I made one cold call to a auto dealership.
Yeah.
And she invited me in for a meeting. So I got the one suit that I had at the time. I went in for this meeting. I built, back then it was Corel Draw. You're too young to know about Corel Draw, but it was Corel Draw that I made one business card and one trifold brochure. I went in, I met with this girl. Her name's Heather. I won't say her last name, but I remember her name. We walked through this enormous auto dealership, and she sits me down and she goes, so how much will you charge for this? And I had no idea. I mean, I barely cleaned my room at the time.
Right.
So I said, well, how much are you paying? She said $5,000 a month. And in my head, I'm thinking, $5,000? Like, to me, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm 19, 20 at the time. And I was like, I'll save you $6,000 a year. And she said, deal. When can you get started? And I lied to her and told her I was traveling the next 2 weeks, but it was because I didn't know what to do next. So I wrote my own contracts. I went out and bought a truck, went out and got supplies. I hired people.
So you said yes, then figured it out.
Oh, yeah. If anybody that knows me tells you that's my MO. I will if I like it, I'll commit and figure it out. I think it's
Figure it out later.
Oh, for sure. There's all the great thing. One thing that motivates me every day is this thought that I don't have to know everything.
Yep.
I just have to be able to identify the people that do know. So I said yes. Went terribly. It couldn't have gone worse. I lost the contract in like 3 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I ended up selling what I had of the business after 3 months because I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep it up.
For a profit?
What's that?
Oh, you made money?
Made my money back at least.
Got it.
Which I thought it actually seemed like quite a feat at the time because I had spent a lot of money to get this thing started.
Right.
Well, for me, it was a lot of money at the time. So anyway, so that business doesn't work out. My brother called me concerned, saying that Mom thought that I was going to kill myself working as much as I was working and still going to school and playing soccer. So he invited me out. This is during the last real estate boom. He invited me out to watch him. He was selling houses for a home builder in Arizona, and he was just making money hand over fist. I mean, you could be in a gorilla suit and make money back then, right? So I go out there and I spend a week with him on the sales floor. Then I came back. He connected me with some guys with a builder here, and I started my path down working with builders. But I just always had this, and I didn't do it for very long, maybe a few years, but I just always had this heartburn that I was sitting in an office all this time, wasting my weekends away, making decent money for my age, but there was some guy at the top of this thing that doesn't know who I am, certainly didn't care about me, but I was helping add to his wealth, and it really never sat with me really well. But I'll tell you though, we're all conditioned to think that you're supposed to graduate, which I never did. So insecurity number one, you're supposed to graduate, supposed to climb the corporate ladder and retire with a good life.
Right.
Well, now retiring is like the worst case scenario for me. Right. So
why is that?
Well, I mean, the traditional sense of retirement is that you bank on money that you stashed away while you were making somebody else wealthy. And you're stuck with that unless you also decide to step out in your own endeavors and add to it.
Right.
I am beyond fearful for the people that are banking on their retirement to live.
Right.
Very few people live a decent life doing that, but we're conditioned to think that's what we're supposed to strive for. So I'm sitting here and I'm selling on site, and like this is the most insecure point in my life was whenever I realized that I was just a terrible employee, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I ended up starting a real estate company, and I partnered with a guy that had the largest consumer auto leasing company in the world, and his business model was super unique. He ran TV and radio ads and drove traffic to the phones. This is right whenever like internet capture was starting to come up and whatnot. So I just wanted to be his company, but on the real estate side. So that's how, it's a long answer to the question, how did I get involved in marketing and branding? That was my first foray into it. And then the greatest lesson of my life was whenever I started the real estate company. I was making more money than I knew what to do with, and I lost everything in the crash
of 2008.
Yeah, so I lost it all.
And what when you say you lost it all, like what was it?
Man, I was living like I was P. Diddy, like I didn't come from money. So you've got this guy was doing all my work from my boat, just
you were working on your boat.
I was just working off of from my boat. That's where that's where I spent most of my time.
Where at?
Jopel.
Got it.
And so I was just making so much money, and well, for me at the time it was a ton of money.
Right.
But I had a Porsche and 2 Range Rovers and a penthouse, and I was the guy that didn't matter how many people were with us at the bar. I was paying the tab, and I was just like that douche bucket that was just acting like he was bulletproof and he would never stop making money. So then the market crashed, and I lost all my cars, had eviction notices on my apartment door. So I lost everything, and then I had a friend recruit me to help his staffing firm start a creative recruiting division, and that's how I formally started getting into marketing.
Got it.
So I was helping companies and agencies staff marketing talent. I ended up getting recruited out of there by an agency. So that was my first foray into the agency world. Got recruited out of that agency by another agency. And 7 months after starting there, I became the managing partner of that agency. And that's kind of where it all started. And then now I'm just in a place, I got to a place where I got tired of marketing other people's businesses, and I just want to start marketing mine. So that's what I do now.
Got it.
It's a long answer, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. So how old were you in '08 whenever all that happened?
So 30.
30? So
29, 30. Yep.
So what if you could go back and give your 30-year-old self or 25-year-old self one piece of advice? You could travel back in time and whisper something into Andre's 25 or 30-year-old self. What would it be?
It's a very good question. And what I would say to my 25-year-old self is very different than what I would say to my 30-year-old self. I feel like there was such an evolution between 25 and 30 that was just paramount in my development. So at 25, I would tell myself, don't be insecure. God has wired you this way. Triple down on it.
And you're just talking about wired you this way to not want to work for
to
somebody.
Be an entrepreneur and to take matters into my own hands. That's the biggest thing, because that was a really fearful time in my life because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm. And you would tell other 25-year-olds
100%
today?
100%. So I'll give you a good example. I was with my pastor, I think it was last week, and I was sharing with him that I have this, what I feel is an inability to be still. So I'm up generally every morning at 4 o'clock. I'm in my Bible by 4:15. Hands lifted in worship whenever I'm at the church, but it doesn't matter where I am. It seems like I can never be still. So I was sharing with him that I feel like there was something wrong with me mentally. Like there has to be something going on in my head that makes me incapable of being still. And he said, there's nothing wrong with your head. God wired you the way that you are. That's why you're able to succeed in what you do, how you do. So really, and he started talking about that my soul needed rest. It had nothing to do with my head. It was my soul that needed rest. So, I just think that a lot of people are just so afraid to be different, right? We're so conditioned, not even conditioned. It's just so silly how much we care about other people. And insecurity typically only has to do with the concern of what other people will think. So to a 25-year-old that's out there right now that wants to develop that app or wants to start that business or wants to go be a doctor and finish school, but now it's a cool thing to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I would just tell them, like, you are wired the way that you're wired for a reason. If you look at it the right way, it's the greatest asset that you have. It is the most powerful thing about you. But what's funny is that we fool ourselves into thinking that it's a hindrance, and it's not.
Wow. That was starting to remind me of Outwitting the Devil.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's that book is just so profound in so many ways, but when you listen to it, I know as somebody that's read it, you hear it from the devil's voice, and you're like, I've lived through that.
Yeah.
Like he has won me over sometimes with this stuff. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I started second guessing everything. How I live my life. I listened to it like 5 times just over and over because I was like, this is this important.
Yeah.
This is the most important book that I ever listened to or read.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with you. If nothing else, it makes you hyper cognizant of what's happening. Right. And being aware is one of the most important things that you can possibly be.
Got it. What about your 30-year-old self?
Don't spend the money.
Don't spend the money.
Don't spend the money. Like it's funny. Like anymore, if I was one to choose frustration as an emotion, and I don't. If I was to choose it as an emotion, I would be frustrated at the fact that I would say that the quote or the saying, you can be whoever you want to be, is quoted by social media, right? Because anymore you can go out and take a picture next to a bunch of nice cars and on a yacht that you don't even own, and showing shoes that you're not actually even buying, and you become this whole it's so important. Like these guys that are inspiring people by what they have, I feel like it's dangerous, because if you chase only things, you'll never have enough things. And true enough, there's some inspiration behind a guy that started from nothing and made his money. But my fear is I never want to inspire people to have what I have materialistically, ever. So back then, I would have been one of the guys that signed on with one of these coaches that has Ferraris and Lambos, and they just teach about how to make money and how to live, in a private jet and things, which are all great things. Like, look, I like private jets more as much as the next guy, you know. But at 30 years old, I was just so worried about portraying that I was that guy that I spent all my money, and I was just dead in the water when the market crashed. But I'll tell you, it's the greatest lesson that I ever learned in my life, and the Lord was very strategic in teaching me that whenever I had no kids and no wife, because I'll never make that mistake again. Never.
Got it.
Actually, it's almost scary how polar opposite I am than that. I mean, I could make a lot more income than I do right now. Like,
and you choose not to?
I bypass it so I can get to my exits quicker.
Tell me more about that.
And it's probably because I've been at this now for what feels like so long. But you know, a lot of people, they start a business and immediately they just want to start taking all the money out of it that they can to pay themselves so they can buy the Porsche and they can get the penthouse and they can do all that stuff. And I bypass that and reinvest the vast majority of our funds back into businesses so I can get us to the exit. Because to me, the generational wealth happens only at the exit. Income will never represent generational wealth.
What do you mean by generational wealth?
Wealth that creates security for generations of your family.
Got it.
So where your kids don't have to worry, your kids don't have to worry, your kids don't have to worry. And so I bypass a lot of my income so I can help us get to the exits faster.
And that's something that you came up with in your head and saw it in your life, or somebody gave you that advice, or?
No, nobody necessarily gave me that advice, but I lived the opposite, and it was just, I saw how that story ended.
Right.
You know, like I took the income and I spent the money, and it was ugly how it ended. And so now, like I live a good life, sure, you know, but you know, could I have nicer cars? Sure. Could I have bigger houses? Could I have multiple houses? Sure. You know, but I am solely focused on A, owning my time, and B, getting us to exits. And I say owning my time because the problem is that if you're so focused on income, you become a slave to your work. Because if Ben goes out, and since Ben had a good year, and Ben triples his car payment, doubles the size of his house, buys private jet membership, well, but you have no wealth to pay for it, then you're a slave to your income. You have to continue to make that income to facilitate the life that you just purchased. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So whenever I say that I own my time, oddly enough, bypassing income helps me do that a lot because it keeps me away from making all those foolish purchases and just being ridiculous with my money, because that's really easy to do. I don't care who you are. It's easy to go out and sit in a new Ferrari and want to buy it. Right. Who doesn't want to?
Right.
You know? So oddly enough, minimizing my income on the front end really helps me navigate those waters, and those waters are dangerous. So,
got it. And when you're saying exits, you're talking about making a sale of a business,
private sale, taking a company public, doing whatever liquidity event that is the home run at the end of the day.
So bypass your income to get to the liquidity event.
Certainly helps, yeah.
It's going to create generational wealth.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's. I'm not saying that my way is the right way, but it's certainly the way that I'm committed to.
Got it.
Yeah. There's other ways to skin this cat, obviously.
Right.
But
what about a couple of your best thoughts on taking a company public or an IPO?
You know, I invested in my first company that went public last fall and did great. And they went public by way of a Reg A plus offering, which is what they consider a mini IPO.
Reg A plus offering.
Regulation A plus offering.
Got it.
Which is considered a mini IPO. It's fairly new in the market. It's been around for a few years now, and it's just now starting to catch steam.
And is that for a smaller business?
Mm-hmm. So what you have is Reg D, which is like the creme de la creme of public offerings, right? So that's what Facebook did. And what you do is as you go through these different types of offerings, the requirements and the regulations increase. So like if you're doing 50 million, you're going to do a Reg D offering.
Doing 50 million, your business is doing $50 million
if you're going to go public, you're probably going to do it through a Reg D offering.
Got it.
That just means that you have to have a certain amount of revenue before you can go public.
So it's 50 million in revenue.
I don't know if it's exactly 50 million, it's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then like the regulations are just much more stringent.
Got it.
You could easily be paying $1 million to $2 million a year just in audits.
Got it.
And then you've got something called a reverse merger, which is, what's considered over-the-counter pink sheet type of trade. The problem with reverse mergers is that it's gotten such a bad reputation as like the pump and dump place, because opposite of Reg D, like there's really no regulations. Like we could create Ben Paige Inc. today and have you public by way of a reverse merger with no revenue in a couple months.
Right. Trading
publicly. But what Reg A Plus is Reg A Plus is really the middle of that. It gives emerging companies like mine the opportunity to go public.
Is it your holding company or one inside it?
I got to tell you, I have 3 companies that I'm looking to do this with over the next 24, 36 months. Holding company will probably go first just because our revenues are going to accelerate like super quick.
Right.
But Reg D or Reg A Plus is what's considered a mini IPO. Not necessarily any revenue requirements, but there's a lot more regulation than there is on reverse mergers.
Got it.
So the investment that I made last year, I did it on the investor side of a Reg A Plus because I wanted to experience it as an investor, and it went swimmingly well. I bought it $1 amount and went public at a different dollar amount. So
a better one?
Yeah, much better.
What about what you were telling me about a friends and family offering? Can you explain that?
Yeah, typically in any cap raise, it's kind of like if you're a realtor, the very first thing you would do is ping your friends and family. Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably talk to your friends and family about referrals and all that. So whenever you're talking about raising capital, it's not just for companies that have the intent to go public. It's for any company. Like you create this friends and family round that says, look, since you're my friends and family, I'm going to talk to you first about my business, and I'm going to provide a value to you for getting in early that the people in the future are not going to get. So, case in point, for our trash bin cleaning business, we're in a cap raise right now.
Trash bin
cleaning business, yeah.
Tell me about that.
So GLEAM is we'll back up. So it was fall 16.
Yeah.
Something happened that I had to end up cleaning my trash bins, and I was just not
your
happy.
Trash bins, like in your garage, your like plastic trash bins,
the ones that get serviced,
that you take out to the end of the driveway and trash truck.
My daughter had thrown a half-eaten ice cream cone in there.
Yeah.
And didn't bag it, and I didn't know it. So it smelled like death a few days later. So I was sitting in the driveway with literally rubber gloves on, with a water hose and Clorox in my hand, and I said, there has to be a different way to do this.
Yeah.
So I started researching the service because I wanted to sign up as a customer. I saw there was a couple people that were providing the service, but then whenever I started doing more research, I saw that all these people were like mom and pop shops. Like they had one truck, which is great.
One truck driving around and cleaning people's trash bins.
Right. But there was no corporation. There was no real business that was doing it. So one of the ways that I look at business is I don't have to be the first to market. I just have to feel like I can outmarket the market. And if I feel like I can outmarket the market, then I'll probably give it a shot if I really like the business. So I bought my first truck winter of 16. Took the winter to build the brand, create the brand, build the brand. Started marketing in March of 17.
How long to build the brand?
Well, I did it over the course of about 5 or 6 months. But it's just because it's slow season in the winter too.
Got it.
Started marketing in March of 17, and 5 months later, I had the largest fleet of our kind in the country. And then now we're knocking on the door of about 2,000 customers. We just launched our franchise opportunity. We've sold 2 in Atlanta. We've got 1 that should be a multiple territory sale coming from northern Denver this week. So it's scaling. I mean, it's a good business.
Yeah.
We started off just cleaning trash bins. I hired my CEO, who's one of my partners in the business now. He used to run business strategy for a $3 billion company, so he's way smarter than I am. So when I hired him, it allowed him to oversee trash bins, and then I do what I do, and that's try to figure out what's next.
Got it.
So we recently launched a laundry valet service. So you and your significant other could put your laundry in our bags, leave them on your doorstep. We'll take them away, get them either washed, dried, folded, or dry clean, and we'll have them back to you in 48 hours.
So is there a theme of that your businesses that you're in are kind of the stuff that you wished you had
So,
and then
well, now that
and
you
then
say
created it?
yeah, the stuff that I operate, sure.
Is all stuff that you had a need for
Yeah,
and then just
now that you say that, the companies that we're acquiring, not so much.
right.
But the stuff that I operate, sure. Now that you say that, yeah.
And so the trash bin cleaning truck, is it like a big dishwasher on wheels that like
So what
what
happens
does it look
is,
like?
yeah. So it's we've got a few Dodge 3500s, we got Ford 250s and a 450. On the back of it, there's a big pressure washing system, but then we've got hydraulic claws. So what happens is we back up to your bins, we put your bins in hydraulic claws, we open up the lid, picks it up, dumps it on top of a spray head.
Yeah.
And with over 3,000 psi and over 200-degree water, we pressure washing it. The spray head pressure washes the interior. We had a third-party white paper done on our service, and our service uses 88% less water than a standard homeowner would with their water hose.
Wow.
And then since we're using the mix of pressure and hot water, we don't have to use any solvents when we clean it either.
Wow.
So we've had, I kid you not, Ben, we've had reviews that say my trash bins smell better than my car does after a detail. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh.
So we should,
That's awesome.
that business should scale pretty quickly throughout the country over the next 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And so the guy will pull up, and then like how long does it take to get that done?
I mean, at most, whenever it's first time cleanings, it takes between 3 and 5 minutes because these bins have never been cleaned.
Right.
Subsequent cleanings after that, maybe 30 seconds a bin.
Got it.
Our most popular service is people that pay to have their bins cleaned once a month.
So reoccurring.
Mm-hmm. And what we do is we charge them just on a quarterly basis. It's recurring on a quarterly basis, where it's $48 per quarter to come once a month. And we just follow in behind Trash and Recycle.
Got it. And then people just leave it down at the end of the driveway, and
they know that we've been by when we put our blue tape on the bins.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then what about your 90-day rule when you start a business?
So how so? What do you mean?
Like how you'll operate your business for 90 days.
Oh yeah.
And so then you
for
can
sure.
So you can train people. I think
Yeah,
I
so
thought
like
that was one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Whenever when I start something, I'll typically be the guy doing the business for the first 90 days. So when I bought my first bin cleaning truck, I drove it. I was cleaning trash bins for 90 days. I mean, this was just a year and a half ago, you know?
So you were in your driveway, the half-eaten ice cream cone.
Mm-hmm.
You get this idea, create it. You build the brand for 6 months, and then you're actually out shortly after cleaning trash bins.
That's right. Laundry. We launched laundry 3 months ago, and I just stopped running the laundry route. This is my second week not running it.
Got it.
So if I'm able to, because look, I mean, the guys that work with me,
yeah,
they have to know that I'm willing to get dirty with them. I mean, I made the mistake of playing CEO when I was younger, playing CEO, and it doesn't pay off. So my guys, have to know that I'm willing to get dirty and do the work with them.
Right.
And then B, it obviously gives me a greater appreciation and understanding of the business that I'm running. So now when we go in, we just struck a deal with a hospital that has 6,000 employees in it for the laundry side.
Yeah.
Now I can go in, and I've had 90 days of experience working with the people that service our clothes, and I know what kind of questions to ask, what kind of expectations to set, because I've been operating that business for the last 90 days. If I didn't do that and I just did the marketing and hired somebody to do the driving and delivery, then I wouldn't be nearly as equipped to strike these strategic partnerships as I am.
Got it.
So to me, it's an investment in my business and my people.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd never heard anybody say that before, you know. So
yeah.
I thought it was really powerful. What about Frank Sinatra with tattoos? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm passionate about all things, but I get really passionate talking about brands. And there's 2 quotes. I think I shared this with you on the phone. There's 2 quotes that I kind of build businesses by. And the first one's, people no longer buy brands, they join them. And the second one's a Buffett quote that says, the best companies in the world buy commodities and sell brands. So whenever I started the menswear company, I knew I couldn't go toe-to-toe with product necessarily out the gates because I didn't even know where I was going to get them made.
The suits?
The suits. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a brand that people would rally around, right? And it's not a brand that you buy, it's a brand that you join, right? So we have raving fans of our menswear. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they feel like they're a part of something when they do business with us, right?
So this is a menswear company.
André Phillipe is,
André Phillipe.
Yeah.
And it's you started it.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it look like now today? How many?
Yeah, so we've been going in business. We're going into our 6th year now. Been custom menswear the entire time.
So like now, this is André Phillipe.
Mm-hmm, outside of these jeans, we don't do jeans, but yeah. This year, we'll be going public soon with the announcement of a new strategic partnership with a $27 billion global brand. Wow. And this is kind of what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been working towards. So we're about to turn the corner. But your question about Frank Sinatra with tattoos is, I would like, look, brand is not just your logo. Your logo is part of your brand, but your brand is how it's alive and it breathes and it speaks a certain way and it looks a certain way. It's a persona. It's a personality. It's all these things that a lot of people don't put thought into. So when we were going through the brand strategy session for the menswear, I reminded my team that the worst thing that we could possibly do is create a brand that we had to work to maintain, right? So I love the timelessness of Sinatra and the Rat Pack. I love all that.
Yeah.
But I'm from Cedar Hill, fairly middle class, lower middle class. I'm tatted. I mean, my playlist is everything from worship music to Led Zeppelin to I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. You know, so what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to create this brand that was like Mahogany Wood Country Club, even though I belong to a country club and I sell to guys and I play golf all the time, you know. But as a brand, I can't resonate with that because that's not who I am and how I grew up, right? So whenever I said Frank Sinatra with tats, the whole brand strategy behind André Phillipe was to create this dichotomy between beautiful luxury and street credibility. Right, so everything that we do, like when we pitch to a major retailer, we use Kanye West's "Black Skinhead" as a backtrack of the song of the pitch, but it was because we wanted to create this dichotomy between these beautiful suits on models and the street credibility that we wanted to bring along with our brand.
It's awesome. What about? Do you have one thing, like one truth, that you would say you want to tell if you could tell every person in the world one thing and it's like you get 20 seconds, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say 2. I know that's not your answer.
All right, 2. But 2.
One is God is real and he loves you. And then the second one, outside of a spiritual component, is it's never about whether you can or can't. It's about whether you will or you won't.
Got it.
I live by that.
We say it once more.
It's never about whether you can or can't. It's about whether you will or you won't.
Wow.
And I think what that does is, if you live by that, it commits you to personal accountability, right? And even though accountability is not fun, it's the catalyst to greatness. I mean, you have to. If I can't hold myself accountable, I don't need Ben to hold me accountable. I don't need if I need you to hold me accountable, there's something going on within me that I need to fix.
Right.
Now I do have accountability partners.
Yeah.
But I don't keep them very busy.
Right.
Because I'm doing it.
And you always did that, or you strengthened that over time?
Yeah, it's like a muscle.
It's a muscle.
Yeah, I mean, when you make enough mistakes where you find yourself at, when you consider the belly of the fish, I mean, if you're smart, you start realizing what you're doing is not working. So it's a muscle that I certainly had to work out, but now it's just second nature. Like my wife will tell you, I legitimately think I'm capable of anything. And it's not because I feel like I'm any better or more talented. In fact, I'm typically the least talented person at the table. But between my ears, you won't beat me. And I think that's where it all starts.
Wow. That's worth writing down. One more minute. How can somebody listening work with you?
A lot of ways. I mean, if you're somebody that's looking to be mentored and coached, I'm launching my mentor program at the end of this year.
What's that called?
It's going to be called the Pride of Lions.
Pride of Lions.
That'll be launched at the end of this year. If you're a small or emerging business or even a concept and you're looking for help scaling your business, then A5, which stands for André Phillipe Holdings Inc., could be helped there.
A5?
A5 stands for André Phillipe Holdings Inc. Or if you're looking for somebody to oversee and help with your branding and marketing, then at times I'll take on clients on a retainer basis to help with that too.
Got it. Awesome, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
dude.
man. Appreciate you. It's fun. Thanks so much. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.